Hey, Matthew.
Hello.
All right. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for being on early.
Oh, no worries. I try to get in 15 minutes early because I don't trust myself in technology.
Well, that's always a good idea. So I'm going to practice sharing my screen that has your PowerPoint. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Are you seeing it?
I am, yes.
Okay. I'm about to sneeze one more. Whew. Okay. Maybe not. All right. Great. So once we go to the Aberist monthly report, I'll pull this up and I'll start show from beginning and just let me know when you want me to switch slides, okay?
Oh, perfect. Can do.
All right. Hey, Christina.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Matthew, do you know anyone who has experience installing timber steps along a trail?
Oh, I know Ziggy and Aaron and Josh just did the new ones at Schreiber.
Okay. I might ask them to be our technical supervisors for our Mile High Youth Corps group
Okay.
have on Iron Mountain. It wasn't in the original scope of the project, but they might add it. And I don't have on the ground experience with timber steps, so good thought. I will ask them.
Yes, they just put him in the last month, I think. So yes, very recent experience. Ziggy
Okay.
can do most anything. He's very capable, which is good.
Hi, Danu. Hi, Jan.
Hey, Jillian. Hey, Matthew.
Hello.
Hey, Chris.
We were having trouble hearing Chris earlier.
Mm, yeah, our we had quite the little storm that blasted through here.
Yeah, it was just thundering really loud here up at Public Works.
Yeah, it took out my internet for a brief moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's currently rolling past me, so if you lose me, that's probably why.
Okay. I know as fast as it started, it stopped like abruptly.
Hmm. Well, the
Matthew,
dog ran downstairs and then it started raining.
Chris is just on her phone right now because she's coming home from work.
okay.
So she'll get on Zoom as soon as she gets home. So, Jillian, how are we doing with the Creek Walk?
In general, they
Yeah,
like
volunteers.
phase 3 or phase 6.
Say again?
Which phase?
Oh, just the volunteers.
Oh, you mean the Creek Week cleanup
Oh,
event.
yeah. Sorry.
We're doing great. We have 60 volunteers officially.
60?
Yeah, 60
Wow.
volunteers officially registered, and Eric suspects that we'll get some on-site registrations as well. So that's pretty exciting. And they're all going to
Oh,
be
it
checking
is.
in at Memorial, and then we'll send the Serpentine volunteers your way at about 9:15, and they'll follow you up to the parking lot, which is going to be reserved for volunteers.
Okay, so do you think I should drive, or because I was just gonna walk, but
Well, that's up to you. You could always just say you're going to meet them up there, and just get there when you get there. Or I'm
oh,
happy to drive and drop you off up there, whatever you prefer.
okay. And then it's pretty overgrown. It might be difficult for us to kind of walk along the creek there because it's the weeds and everything are just so high. I didn't know what it would take to maybe weed whack a little bit of a pathway for us, maybe. I don't know. I was gonna walk it. Maybe I'll walk it tomorrow and I'll have a better idea.
Yeah, let me know when you go out. I'll see if I can go with you. But I
Okay.
did remind all the volunteers to wear long pants.
Oh,
Because
definitely.
regardless of where they are, they're going to be getting into some stuff. So they should
Right.
have pants on and shoes. They don't mind getting dirty.
Okay. And actually, I forgot. I can't do it tomorrow anyway, but maybe Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we have Jan, we have Colin, we have Anthony, we have Christina and Tim here. So I'd be happy to start our meeting right on time at 6 o'clock for PARAB. And if somebody would open to approve our agenda for tonight.
I'll approve it, Danu.
Thank you, Colin. Can I get a second?
Second,
Okay, thank you, Anthony. All right, is anybody opposed to approval of the agenda? Okay, then I will take it as everyone approves. Now we have the approval of our draft minutes for August 7, 2023. And I'll entertain
I'll
them.
approve those as well.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Do I get a second on that?
second,
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Does anybody have any corrections or additions or things they'd like to change before I ask for an approval? Okay, if not, everyone approve? Okay, is anybody opposed? All right, then our August minutes pass. And then the draft for September, I started going over those today, and I'd like to postpone approval of those minutes until I make some corrections. So I'd like to table approval for the minutes until our next meeting in November, and then I will have Alicia put the noted edits in our packet for November. Public comments not on the agenda. I don't believe there's anybody here for that. And are you guys still there? Hold on.
Can you
Sorry.
hear us, Janu?
Yeah, my computer just sort of kind of freaked out on me. Reports, PARAB, Park and Rec. The only thing I have to report is Jillian and Dole and I all met and we came to the agreement to engage JR Engineering to begin the designs for Creek Walk 6, which is the stretch along Serpentine Drive from the roundabout up to Rainbow Falls. Jillian, did you want to add anything to that?
Not much to add, but really want to say thank you, Danu, for helping us with that. We had some other folks on board, but they ended up not having the time to go over the proposals and offer their insight. So really wanted to thank you for that. And I think we chose a great company.
I hope so too. Does anybody else have any reports for PARAB? Okay, if not, oh yeah, Jan, go ahead.
Well, it's not a report, but many of the neighbors, and I don't know to whom I should respond to this. And if I should just do a quick fix, let me know. But many of the people in the neighborhood and people that are new to the area have complained about the poo bag disposals with that trio of bags to pull out, that they're hard to pull out. You end up pulling out about 3 or 4 or more because they don't click off. You can't separate them easily. And therefore you have a lot that you just end up throwing away that have holes in them and that kind of stuff. So it might have been cheaper to have those versus the ones that we had before, but I don't think they are as efficient, if you will. And it's not just my opinion, but others have made that same comment.
Dan, I can speak to that. We've received several complaints about the bags in the new dog waste bag dispensers. We are planning on ordering much sturdier bags for our next round, but we're sitting on about 6,000 of those bags right now. So we're trying to encourage folks to take their time tearing them off, but we do recognize that they tear easily. So we're aware of the issue, and our next round of ordering, we're going to upgrade the bags to make sure that they don't rip as easily.
I'll
So,
pass on that information.
okay, thank you.
On a related note, the dispenser is, some of them seem, is it, maybe you've changed dispenser types, but some of them I've noticed have just not been filled for a while. But I'm like at Iron Springs, up on Rexton, there's one
Okay.
that hasn't been filled for a while.
Thanks. We'll look into that. We try to have our guys check them out every time they're doing park rounds, and some can get missed. So we'll make sure they're all filled.
Okay, anybody else from PARAB? Okay, Jillian or Matthew, since Michelle isn't on board tonight, do you folks know anything from city council that we should know about? Or
Yes.
anything? Okay.
So tomorrow evening, we are doing a presentation of the pool feasibility study. So if anyone's interested in learning the main takeaways and recommendations from the study and hearing what city council's recommendations are going to be going forward, I would recommend going to the meeting. We're right now second on the agenda, the second presentation item. I'm working on making it the first, but I can't guarantee. So I'm not sure exactly what time that presentation will start, but it should be a really interesting discussion.
Jillian, do you remember the name of the consultant who will be presenting that?
Yes. It's like his actual name or the company.
Probably company.
So it's Bob McDonald, and he's with OLC Design, or OLC. I don't think it's OLC Design, but they're the ones who finished the study and will be presenting.
OLC
Yep, OLC.
Design.
I'm really interested in this, but I teach till 7:30 tomorrow, so I don't think there's any way I'll make it. Danu, are you going tomorrow night? Or is there
Probably
somebody
not.
else from
Probably
PARAB?
not. Yeah, but probably what I'll do is a lot of times I'll catch it on YouTube. So,
Okay.
yeah, so all their meetings are on YouTube.
And Jillian, would you be able to summarize the discussion a bit at the next PARAB board meeting, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll
Okay.
be sitting there with our contractors, so I'll be able to have a front row seat to all of that. So I'm happy to summarize.
Great, thank you.
Jan, did you have a question? Okay.
Trying to make the dog stop barking.
Oh, I see. Okay. Jillian, do you have any more updates since we're talking about the pool? I'm just sort of jumping ahead here. Do you have any updates on what's going on with the remodel project there, or being able to nail down a contractor to do that work for
So
the
we've identified a contractor for the ADA remodel. They're
Yes.
waiting on getting a performance bond, which has held up the process quite a bit. We're aiming for November to get the contract finalized, and most likely construction renovation would start in December. So the pool will be closed for X amount of days. We're hoping just 45 days, starting in December, going into January, maybe early February.
Okay. Basically, that's just an insurance bond, right? Making sure they have enough correct insurance coverage. Is that what that is?
Yes, and if they end up dropping the project mid-construction, they
Uh,
can cover the remaining costs for the project to be finished, is the way I understand that performance bond. And that's now required in all of our construction contracts.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, and we have a new aquatics manager.
Oh, really?
He's starting November 2nd. His name is Phil Moya, and he was in Colorado Springs. I think back in the 90s, him and Roy both worked in the pool industry. And so they remember each other from a while ago. And he's moving down here from Wyoming. So
Wow.
yeah, he has a ton of experience, and we're excited to have him on board, especially with all the projects surrounding the pool right now. So he starts November 2nd.
Okay, great. All righty. Any other questions for Jillian around the pool? Okay, if not, we don't have anything on OSAC. So now, Jillian, I'm going to turn it back over to you again to bring us up to date with anything going on with the parks.
Awesome. So I just have a few things, and I know Matthew's excited to present his arborist report to everybody. So I'm going to show just a couple of pictures. I like to show, whoops. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Hey, Grant.
Now let me know, are you seeing the new fun panel at the Soda Springs Park?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I just wanted to show this off. If you've been to Soda Springs Park within the past couple of months, you've noticed this pole covered in plywood. So we finally got our fun panel in, and we had it installed by our parks maintenance team and inspected by our newly certified playground inspector, which is Brad Barr. He's our parks manager. So he obtained that certification and can now officially do safety inspections for playgrounds. So just wanted to show off that panel. We're really proud of it. It's shiny and new. So it's kind of a contrast to some of the other equipment at that playground. But the reason we didn't replace it with a slide is because that entire playground is going to be replaced during phase 2 of Soda Springs Park. So just in case you receive any questions about that, we're really excited that that's there. And I want to show you a draft of the sign. Whoops, hold on. That Colin helped me with. So I'm going to share my screen again in a moment. Maybe. It's disappearing. Bear with me. There it is. All right, so I'm pulling up a draft of our pickleball court waiting system sign. So this is the sign that's going to go above the pickleball paddle racks at Fields Park. So if you've been by the court, you've noticed we did install the new rack right next to the old one. So that way they're both in line instead of being that much larger gap. So this is going to go right above those racks. And thank you, Colin, for helping me with to whittle down the language on this. I know the first draft was extremely wordy. I think it was like 12 bullet points. So this is much better. There's just a few things on my regular list. I mentioned the pool feasibility study presentation at council tomorrow. Fields Park, we've identified a contractor for the ADA restroom remodel at that location. So we're gonna finalize that contract and they're gonna start construction soon. And they'll be making the existing restroom ADA accessible and also painting, repainting the pavilion structure around the building. So it's a nice facelift for that facility.
Will there be any kind of interior kind of upgrades also, or is it just gonna stay concrete floor and
There will
basic
be some
stainless steel?
It's not gonna look like a prison restroom anymore.
It will,
But
or it
it's
won't?
really, it's a little scary using that restroom. So yes, there will be some upgrades. We're gonna paint, they're gonna redo the floor. They're gonna redo the entire entrance to make the door accessible for folks who are getting into the restroom using a wheelchair. So it will look a lot better and all new appliances as well. Thanks for asking.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask PARAB, so our electricity needs upgraded at Memorial Park. And we did speak with Marcus Electric and obtained a quote just to redo the electric, make it more reliable when there are special events going on. And I'm wondering, is that something we could use CTF Parks funds for? And the quote is $3,700.
$700. Yeah, we could. Are you kind of tapped out in your budget for parks, Jillian?
We're not completely tapped out, but it would certainly be helpful to have this covered, maybe even partially by CTF. Just thought I would ask.
Sure. Do you want to discuss that now, PARAB? Do you want us to discuss that right now, Jillian?
Yes, and I'm not, so this is my first, I guess, ask of this sort with this group. Is this something that needs to go to a vote, or is it something we can discuss just during the director's report?
It probably would have to go to a vote if you're asking us to approve funds out of the CTF.
Well, what I would like to do is then send you some more information on this and discuss it possibly at the next meeting.
Okay.
Jan?
I'm just wondering what, if we know now what's in the account at this point for CTF. Yeah, do you remember?
So I looked yesterday, and if I'm reading it correctly, we still had about 28,000 left in the CTF line for parks, and that's out of 30,000 that was allotted for 2023.
Okay, that's helpful.
Okay. I'm just curious, Jillian, do you know how much that Fields 88 park maintenance came in for the bathroom, to remodel for that?
47,000.
Okay. And then would that be coming out of the, I got confused about the capital improvement fund, all that stuff. Was there money, I think there was money in the capital improvement fund for that project, or was there not?
Ooh, that's a good question. I know there was money set aside specifically for that project. I don't know if it was the capital improvement fund or elsewhere right now. I can check and find out for you though. But we had 80,000 set aside for that project.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure where you can pull all the funding and things like that. So, alrighty. Okay, well then, how soon do you need to know about the electrical upgrade monies?
We'd like to have them work on it before we get extremely heavy snowfall. So
For Memorial Park, yeah.
Yeah, in Memorial Park. It'd be nice to know within a month if we could get them on board to get that fixed.
Okay. All right.
All right, and that's all I have for my report. And I'm gonna start sharing my screen for Matthew's presentation.
Okay.
Perfect. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah,
Perfect. So hello, Para. You're also my tree board. Congratulations, I suppose. So this is our first tree advisory board, tree committee meeting tonight. So I figured I'd try to keep it fairly simple. Slide, please. Perfect. So I figure we go over the tree committee responsibilities as passed by council. Touch briefly on tree risk assessment. So that's going to be a large part of what y'all do is kind of advise on particular trees prior to just cutting them down, trying to avoid that. 3 trees for you tonight, just kind of a first blast for you. Brief update on the Carnegie Library trees. An opportunity for you all to come out and visit with us as we do a tree risk assessment, if you'd like, to kind of see what that process looks like. And at the next PARAB meeting, I figure we will start working through the Heritage Tree program. Slide, please.
so wait a minute, I have a question.
Okay.
Matthew, those 3 trees you had for consideration, are you considering cutting those down? I'm not
necessarily.
clear about that.
Yeah, not necessarily. So y'all get to weigh in on these things. So some of these trees are, it's time. We probably ought to look at removal. Some of them are, we could probably prune it to reduce the risk within a reasonable margin. And some are kind of, I'm waffling. So I'm excited to see what you all have as far as input. So I'm not just going to bring you removals, I promise. That would just be sad. You're not just a rubber stamp. It's here to be a conversation as to why we are doing what we're doing. Perfect. So as passed by council, this is the tree committee responsibilities. It is to coordinate and promote Arbor Day, review and update the multi-year plan to plant and maintain trees, support awareness, education, and incentive programs, review city department's concerns related to tree care, assist with the annual application of Tree City USA, develop a list of recommended trees for city property, advise on the removal or replacement of trees where feasible or when feasible, and designate heritage trees per the heritage tree program. Do we have any thoughts or questions on that?
Jan, do you have a question? Okay.
Sorry, I can only see Denise. So I don't know if anybody's raising their hand or anything.
Yeah, just speak up, you guys, if you have any questions.
Okay, slide, please. So, just a brief touch on the tree risk assessment. This is a formal process that we utilize to analyze our trees. It's not just myself going out there and saying that tree looks scary and then cutting it down. This is a formalized assessment where we're analyzing different parts of the trees, the risks that they may pose, the targets available, and so on. I am a tree risk assessment qualified arborist in addition to being a certified arborist. So I am allowed to do these and it would be legally defensible if we ever had to go that way. But in short, you fill out the sheet and you fill out all these matrices and all that, and it comes up with a tree risk. The scale is low, moderate, high, or extreme. Slide, please. So here are our 3 trees for tonight. As we start out, I just want to make sure that we can kind of build a relationship here. As we move forward, there's going to be a lot of trees that just, they're crunchy dead. It's over the street. It must be removed. But I want to at least advise y'all in the initial process to ensure that I'm not just going out and doing this. And if you wish to be consulted about each individual tree that meets that criteria, that's fine. Please just let me know. So slide, please. So here is the first tree. The reason we went out and did a tree risk assessment on this one is a concerned resident, the gentleman that owns a house with a black wrought iron fence, was concerned about the tree. It's a large ponderosa pine. It's in good condition. It doesn't show any signs of stress beyond regular drought stress and heat island stress. The trunk is sound, no evidence of heaving of the soil. It does have a fairly uneven canopy, and it does overhang Crystal Park Road, and it does point towards the power lines. These are all things that are factored into our tree risk assessment. So per that tree risk assessment, this tree was deemed a moderate risk. An important part of the tree risk assessment process is a reassessment interval. I put 1 year for this tree because it doesn't have any factors that indicate it's going to be predisposed to failure in normal weather conditions. So here's kind of our 3 options on this tree. The first is to prune it for proper street clearance. It's hanging a little low. We need 14 feet over the street. Make sure that the tractor trailers don't prune it. There's evidence of damage, so we need to lift it up off the road a bit. We could prune to thin the canopy, and that'll reduce the weighting on the tree, and it will reduce your loading by wind and snow. So the wind will go through the tree instead of against it. That'll reduce our likelihood of failure. And option 3, not my favorite option, is to remove the tree. In this case, I would probably recommend that we prune to thin the canopy to reduce the likelihood of tree failure. So this is where you all could ask questions, lend a recommendation. I'm not exactly sure how this process ought to work yet. This is my first time.
Do you want us to comment as we go through each tree assessment?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah, because some of these trees will be like this one. The resident really wanted to follow this whole process to fruition. He wants the tree to go away. That's his end goal. I would prefer not to remove the tree because I think it provides a lot of benefit. But we've got this process through you all to the tree committee. And so that's why we're doing this. So if anybody has comments, questions, concerns, desired direction, etc.
This is Tim. May I make a statement real quick?
You may.
I would just like to say that I appreciate your expertise, and generally speaking, I would defer to your opinion on probably 99.4% of your recommendations, particularly on this one. I think it's great that we have an arborist, and I am not an expert when it comes to trees, so thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I was going to ask
you oh, sorry. Go ahead, Anthony.
Just 2 questions. One, I was just wondering which trees kind of fall under for this discussion. They're trees that affect kind of rights of way or public facility. Is this one on private property? And then my other question was just, I mean, I agree with Tim that generally, just doing what's called for makes sense. I was wondering if in the past, like removing trees, if people, come back and say, why did you take out that tree? Or if that's been a topic and just, if people do raise concerns afterward, but.
Yes. So the scope of this is going to be high visibility, public trees, park trees. If it's just a stone dead silver maple in the cemetery, I'm just going to go cut it because that's what needs to be done. There's a park tree that's marginal or a street tree that's high visibility and marginal. That's where I ask for your input and your thoughts. And yes, this community is incredibly invested in their trees, which is lovely. But we do want to make sure we're having this discussion. The fear is that we're just going out and cutting things down to cut things down, which in the past did occur. Now we're trying to make sure that we have the conversation. And that you all have the ability to weigh in on it before I just go Chainsaw Charlie on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know in other places I've seen when people do get very upset when trees are removed and they say they didn't know about it. And I was just wondering if there's any kind of, like with other things like posting, this tree is found to be an extreme risk or a high risk, and we are planning to remove it. This will be brought up at the PARAB board meeting on X date. And if you wish to comment, show up. And then, because then people would have a chance to speak their mind, and then, because we by and large probably won't have a whole lot about an individual tree, but.
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. There's probably a way we could post these trees. Or make the resident, the concerned citizen, whoever is writing in, calling in about it, and make it available for them to come discuss. I'll think on that. It's probably a nice way to do that.
Colin, did you have something?
Oh, I just wanted to kind of, I agree with Tim, Matthew. I think this is actually super cool to learn about these things. And I would just always trust your opinion, but I like how you're running through with us. And then to Anthony's point too, it's nice that there is all this documentation. So after the fact, if there is a complaint, you can say, here's the assessment forms, here's photos, here's the minutes of the meeting with the tree committee, and this is why we made the decision. So, yeah, so I think it's great.
Thank you. No, I'm very excited because this is going to be an excellent outlet for me to make sure that people have the opportunity to be heard and to be seen. It's not just me going out there making unilateral decisions. Even if they may be correct, it's best to have the conversation. So, so with this
My
tree,
thought,
oh,
yeah,
sorry,
my
Dave.
thoughts, yeah, I'd do minimum prune and to provide, you know, proper street clearance and somewhat to reduce the weight loading, and then reassess after your 1 year. And I agree with everybody else with what everybody else has said.
So Danu, are you saying 2 or 1?
I'm saying kind of a mix of 1 and 2, because it already looks like it's already pretty sheared up halfway up the tree, or a third up the tree. It looks pretty pruned up, you know. So my hesitation is if we take more, I'm afraid it'll kill the tree. I don't know, Matthew, is that something that is an unfounded concern of mine?
No, I mean, it's every time you're taking part of the canopy, you're taking away the tree's ability to make its own food. This tree is lopsided because it used to have 2 friends that were similar sized ponderosa pines until the homeowner there went and cut them down. So that's why the canopy is so lopsided. You can usually do anywhere from 25 to 30% canopy reduction without undue stress to a tree. But we'd probably be somewhere less than that. We'd go through, we'd pick out the branches that appear to be the most codominant, and then we'd probably kind of thin it out a bit through the whole canopy. But any reduction in available leverage or weighting is going to reduce the likelihood of failure. So this tree, it's really well anchored. It's stuck to the ground really effectively. I'm not seeing any evidence of new construction damage or anything else that would predispose it to failure. But it's got a heavy lean over street, so I understand the concern. And
Well, I defer to you, Matthew.
Well, thank you. Well, I guess then, if there's no conflicting opinion, we will go for option 1.5. Print it up over the road and maybe thin it out just a touch. Perfect. Next slide, please. So this is our second tree. This is more of those, you know, the marginal, the moderate trees, the ones where I don't have a super strong opinion, and I invite that you all ask questions and help us determine the path forward here. So this is a large silver maple at 25 Washington Street. Got a call about this one as well because they're concerned about it. I apologize for the Google photo. Somebody forgot to take the photo. Next slide, please. This is a bit more of the process that we follow when we do these tree risk assessments. So as we inspect the tree, we start with the canopy and kind of work our way down through the branching to the trunk to the roots. We inspected the canopy of this tree, and it's got a large number of old breaks, 2 to 4 inch leaves or branches that failed out in storms, because that's kind of what silver maples do. Next slide, please. So here's a picture of us inspecting the bottom of the tree. You can see why the resident is concerned. There's a large wound in the side of the tree, and there is an obvious cavity in the base of the tree as well. And the tree planting location is not very good. It's a little tree lawn, whatever you'd like to call it. Next slide, please. So one of the tools we use is a probe, and it allows us to figure out how deep our cavity is, because the amount of structural solid wood on a tree is going to indicate its likelihood to fail or not fail. This tree obviously has a large cavity into the base of the tree, and it allowed us to determine there's 3 or 4 inches of sound wood on the lean side of this tree. So that's a pretty good amount of solid wood. You can also see that there's pretty vigorous healing, curling up and over that old wound. And once the tree completely compartmentalizes that wound, completely encapsulate it, you're at almost 100% structural integrity again. So that's something we kind of look for as we do this process. Next slide, please. So we can all see this the probe up in the top of the tree, and there's a cavity in probably 6 feet up of 6-8 inches deep or thereabouts. So as we're tapering up through the tree, the cavity is reducing in size. It's kind of like a cone. So that's another indicator that the decay, the compromise, the hollow is not all the way up the trunk, which is good because sound wood is good wood. Next slide, please. So again, this is another citizen contact. They were concerned about the tree due to the obvious history of failures, the large wound at the base. So we went out and did a tree risk assessment last month, and the tree risk assessment came back as moderate. Again, our scale being low, moderate, high, extreme. It's got a big cavity in it, but the response growth is vigorous. There's many old breaks in the canopies, pretty standard silver maple. Part of the concern, again, was the lean towards the power lines and the road. And again, I do a reassessment interval of 1 year on this tree to make sure the condition doesn't greatly change. So the options here, at least the recommended options, are kind of a prune to thin out the canopy. So again, you're dead, crossing predominance, going through the entire canopy and cleaning it up to make sure that wind, snow, other forces go through the canopy, not against it. Or we could look at removal. The only middle ground available to us on this one is a really aggressive thinning, like a 50% canopy reduction, which has two things I'm not wild about. First, you're going to be opening up a ton of large wounds all the way through the tree. Great. Inviting more opportunity for cavity nesters like birds, decay, etc., to get into the canopy. And it's going to look terrible, to be blunt. There's a lot of trees like that in town where they just went through and hacked it to bits to make it better. But you're going to reduce the risk. So, kind of going back with this one, I'd probably go through and thin out the canopy and looked it up over the road just as before, rather than look at removal at this point in time. But this one's kind of the, I'm not set on another course of action. Because it's a nice big tree. We can't put another tree like this back. The homeowner has a picture of this tree in like 1907. So it's been there a minute. And I hate to lose a tree like that if we don't have to. So, questions, comments, concerns?
Is it possible to do the pruning in stages?
It is, yes. So that's what
And
we
is that a reasonable option, or?
I think so. I think so. That's usually what happens with these large silver maples is you just kind of continue to pare down the canopy and reduce your canopy to reduce your risk systematically over the years until you just have a stump with 3 leads off. And that's when you remove
I guess, yeah, I was just thinking more in terms of if that makes any difference in terms of allowing the tree to recover
Yes.
between prunings.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Keeping,
Oh.
yeah, spread out the damage across a number of years and allow it to kind of compartmentalize and heal over those wounds. That's going to help.
Would this qualify for a heritage tree?
So I reread the heritage tree what do you call it, criteria again today in the tree ordinance. It must be above 36 inches in diameter, tied to a historical person, place, or event, which this tree could. It's tied to that house and one of the early founders of Manitou, of special value or novel species. I kind of go back and forth on these silver maples because they are all old and they are all large. But part of the reason behind a heritage tree program is we only want it's supposed to be selective. And if we allow one large silver maple to become a heritage tree, we much without special criteria, we probably ought to make all of them heritage trees, which is going to mean instead of 20 or 30 trees, we'll have 50 to 100. Not saying that's good or bad, it's just something for consideration. And this tree is not bigger than 36 inches. I think it's 20 something.
I would agree with Tim's approach to do it, to prune it in stages.
Easy enough. Good. Yeah, it's a nice tree. I don't think it's time yet. That's my general informed opinion. So, now, if we don't have any other discussion, next slide, please. Perfect. So there's going to be a lot of trees like this. This is where, when I was speaking earlier as to, do you want to be consulted about every single one of these or not? Perhaps early on, we can speak about each one, and later on, perhaps not. This is a large declining silver maple at 111 Navajo. Another resident submitted concern, not necessarily a complaint, about this tree. As you can see, it's rough. We're probably 50% canopy loss. There's evidence of a lot of old breaks, improper pruning, etc. So next slide, please. And they just poured a brand new sidewalk on it. Isn't that great? So there's probably some level of disturbance we don't know as far as root cutting, root pruning, but we can assume there's some damage there. Construction workers are not generally delicate types. Next slide, please. So we just did the tree risk assessment on this one today. The tree risk assessment determined that this tree is a high risk tree. Again, low, moderate, high, extreme. For 50% canopy loss, there's one branch, well, lead, probably 12 inches in diameter. It's failed. It's just hanging up there right over the road. Not great. And a number of smaller branch failures as well, because silver maple. The trunk is sound. It's not hollow. That was really surprising. Usually at this point in the tree's decline, the trunk is hollow as it grows. Were we to not remove this tree, it'd be a reassessment interval of every 3 months. We have a number of trees like this in town. They are actively failing. Just had to cut one off a house last week. So there's going to be 30, 50 of these trees in the next 6 months to a year that I would ask that either you all weigh in on, or perhaps give me the authority to just go ahead and do this work, or a little bit of both. I don't want to overstep. So the options available to us are to prune, to remove all dead wood, which is the majority of the tree. The only part that will be left is kind of a splotch at the top there, then everything pointed at the house. Or we could remove the tree to ground level. And as a reminder, every time we remove a tree, I'm going to replant at least one tree for it. Ideally, in a street tree location like this, somewhere thereabouts, so we're not leaving that canopy cover in that part of the neighborhood. So, questions?
I don't have a
Is
question.
your-
I think it's very, very sad to see one like this that's just been butchered and bruised. So I understand why removal, especially with the potential for damage all around it, is the best idea.
It is sad. I don't like seeing trees like this, but predates me by a couple of years.
Do you think it's too far gone to kind of bring it back, Matthew?
Yeah, this one, it's bad. Like I said, it is actively failing. There's a number of failures. There's a bunch of holes in the cavity with cavity nesters where birds are living in there. It's great for the birds. They're not actively in there now. I apologize, misspoke. They're not actively nesting, otherwise I couldn't cut it down. But it's at this stage in its development where if we caught it 5 or 10 years ago, like the previous tree we discussed, we probably could have bought more time. But at this point, with the extent of damage and the extent of active failures, I would feel pretty uncomfortable leaving this tree, because there's a really good chance it's going to fall and hit the house or a car or a person or dog. We can't have that.
Yeah, I mean, just again, like wondering if someone does find the tree has special meaning or whatever, like having some way of posting and saying, we are planning to remove this tree on in 2 weeks or whatever, a week from now. If you have questions, please contact city arborist or whatever. And because after the fact, people might come forward and say they didn't have a chance to weigh in, but.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm lucky, I suppose, in that whenever I wander out in my lovely pumpkin orange shirt, people ask me what I'm doing. And I spoke to the resident for probably 20 minutes today about this tree, and she's sad, and that's valid. It is sad. But after we point out some of the failure points and the issues, she understands it's probably tough. So I like the idea of posting. I don't know how to do that exactly. I don't want to just go Fern Gully the blaze on it. That's probably not the best way to do it. But there's probably some nicer way.
Matthew, just jumping in, we could possibly have a link on our website, like the city arborist page, where any trees that are up for potential removal, people could weigh in on. So that could be an easy outlet, just directing them to the webpage instead of creating an individual flyer for each of these trees. So just a thought.
That's a
Okay.
great thought, Jillian. That's a great thought. I totally support that idea.
Or kind of riffing on that, we are currently working on a tree inventory. Most of the way done with the parks now, which is really exciting. After we get done with the parks and the downtown trees and all that, we'll be working into the neighborhood trees. And trees like this, I would probably flag. There's a option in the inventory software. Flag it as a remove. So perhaps that's another way where folks could say, oh, please go look at the tree inventory. And if they see that, whatever the marker is, that might be a way for them to get that information.
Maybe Alex
Yeah.
Treffry could put out a little blurb about that too, so that people are aware of that. Because I know a lot of people in the garden club would appreciate that, and I'm sure they would have input and opinions about that as well as
That was-
other
that-
residents.
That's what I was going to suggest too, that Alex could do that, and he can do it on Nextdoor or some of the other social media, and just say that this is a plan. Please check for areas around you as to what might be posted, and et cetera.
No, that's a good idea. Yeah, because what I'm trying to avoid is if the first folks hear of the tree removal as a chainsaw, really doesn't go well, because at that point it's too late. If we're there to do the work, we've got everything, the tree's already been slated. It's not a pleasant conversation. So I appreciate all these thoughts. I hadn't thought of that. I'm not much for the internet or Facebook or any of that. I probably ought to be.
So the homeowner was sad to see it go, or sad at the thought of losing it?
She's sad to see it go, and she's also afraid it's going to squish her house. So yes, they're actively concerned about it, and they should be. It's not good. But yeah, they've been there 25, 27 years, I forget, and this tree has been a part of their life for that time. So
Mhm. And you don't think that you just pruning it up and doing the best you can and make it maybe look better for next spring, maybe
so
we could do that, or no?
one of the neat things about the tree risk assessment process is at the end of the form, there's a mitigating options section. And you can put in there like aggressive thin or reduce or cut out the broken lead or whatever else. And then you can recalculate what the risk this tree still poses. If we were to go in and do a full deadwooding, thinning, all that, this tree is still going to be classified as high risk or moderate risk. So we're still allowing the risk to remain with some level of benefit remaining. So yeah, it's tough because I always try to balance. I don't want to just go out there and hack away at it. But when they get to this state, there's just not a whole lot we can do to actually reduce that risk or measurably reduce it.
Or to bring it back?
Or
To
bring it
encourage
back.
growth.
Yes. Yeah, like the other one we looked at, I think we can buy some time. I think we can buy a lot of time. This one, it's too late, I think. Because yeah, we hate to do all that work and then open up a bunch of new wounds. The tree doesn't have the energy to compartmentalize, close off those wounds. And all the weighting, the remaining material will be weighted directly over that house. That's where all the green wood is left. So gravity being what it is, it'd be predisposed to failure towards the structure, which is not good. Yeah, one of the interesting things too, I apologize if I'm rambling, is you always look at like rates of occupancy. If this tree was in the back 40, we could probably buy some time. But because it is a street tree and over a house and active roads and sidewalks, it does kind of push the paradigm towards that high risk category.
Hey Matthew, this has been super informative. And I definitely with others trust your judgment. I do think this one probably needs to be removed. But you were mentioning that there's like maybe 30 to 50 of these as well throughout the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. For me, if you're saying that it's high risk and you've kind of chatted with the homeowner or whoever, and you're going to put a new tree in, I don't know. I'm going to defer to you on a lot of those because you would know best. And I don't want to see any trees removed, but I mean, those others that are kind of in between, I think that's where PARAB can really weigh in. But some of these that are already high risk, I'm going to always defer to you. But
Thanks.
Hey.
Trying to, yeah, just trying to figure out what this process looks like. And I've never done this. I want to make sure that we're transparent and we're actually doing what we should be doing. So
no, and that's super awesome. So I appreciate that.
okay.
Yeah, I agree with Rebecca and Tim, what everybody said so far. And I also appreciate that you're sensitive to the fact that, yeah, Manitou is a special community and people really care about their trees, among other things. So anyway, thank you for working with us and the whole community and having that empathy. Also, I was gonna say, you said you're not much for like Facebook or like the communication stuff is not really your forte. And I think that is fine. And I think that is partially, our partnership with PARAB, and then we can start, brainstorm those ideas like, hey, let's loop in Alex, let's loop in, let's do this, these are different ways we can communicate with residents. So yeah, no worries. Focus on your tree stuff, and then we can be your team to like help you figure out how we can all communicate. And that's maybe more our expertise is the community engagement, and like obviously none of us are tree experts, so that I'm aware of. So
Or not yet. I'll keep rambling at you, I promise.
great.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That's I don't have any desire to be a PR person. On an individual level, I'm very good at that, but e-blasts are not my thing.
Well, I'm hearing consensus that we're on board with your recommendation to remove this tree. I think all we need to see is some kind of notification plan, and then move forward, and that will help us because that can be applied to everything going forward. So what will that look like? What kind of timeline should we think about? And is there anything else we need to consider? And that's for everybody.
So I'm kind of thinking like, moving forward. So say he's got, dozens of trees on his radar that kind of fall in this category where, you do an assessment and it's a high risk tree. And even if you were to prune it, it still falls into moderate or high risk. Then maybe those are ones that he doesn't consult with us on. Is that kind of what you were asking?
No, just more specifically, at least as far as this tree right here goes in terms of consensus, and then getting that notification plan together. I think the next thing we should talk about would be what kind of is there a low bar in terms of criteria that we should set that say anything that falls below this, go ahead and remove with the proper notification process. Anything above this bar, please bring it to us in PARAB.
Yeah.
We talked about posting some of the information on the internet, on the website. I again think just a small sign that you put at the site saying, attention, the city of Manitou Springs has conducted a tree assessment and found this tree to be of high or extreme risk. It is slated for removal on this date. Please see this website for additional information or contact Matt at this number. And then, people can contact, and if they don't, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on individual trees when they get to that level. But it just gives people a chance and something visible at the site. So at least they'd have had a chance to see it and weigh in if they're concerned.
Mhm.
I like that idea, but I'm wondering for Matt, how much time intensive part it's going to be to make sure that if you have 30 trees that you're going to be doing that with and doing the timing, I can see that that would be a nightmare as far as a date when this might be happening. There might be a date range, but I just don't want to have it too cumbersome for Matt, just because that's not his job. So I like the idea of the notification. I just, having the specificity might be a bit much.
How about something that's a sign there that says that this tree is, there's language about the high risk. It's going to be removed sometime in the next 30 days. And you could have a QR code on this little flyer thing that someone could scan with their phone, and it takes them right to the website where the tree list is, where they could register their concerns.
I like that.
Me too. Good idea.
I don't think it'd be an undue amount of work to, do a little flyer QR thing and put it on the trees. Because a lot of folks are going to come to me directly one way or another. They might go through Jillian, Alicia, Mandy, half the streets department, and finally end up with me. And I'm happy to talk to folks. I don't want this to be a surprise. And one of the joys of working for this community is I have the bandwidth usually to do that. But I appreciate you trying to be defensive with my time. But I don't want to get mired in a 2-hour discussion about a tree like this.
Well, and I think too, Matthew,
Yeah.
I think it's more that the sign on the tree is more just like a notice, so that when the crew comes out, people aren't all taken aback and shocked. I wouldn't expect that there'd be a lot of people that would actually go to the website and want to talk to you and register things. It's more just like, like Anthony was saying, it's a heads up. They're walking past the tree every day. They see that it's coming, and they're not going to freak out.
No, I think that's a good idea. Because the tree removal crew will probably be Mandy and I. You can see her in the photo down there. So we'll be the people on the ground more often than not. So that's easy enough. I could, before the next meeting, I can have a little flyer done up for y'all. I'm also hearing these trees on the high risk. Unless it's super, super high visibility, I may not always come to you all with that. Or one that may or may not be contentious. Anything in the extreme risk class, I'm just going to take for public safety. That's what I need to do. And then the low and moderate, and there's going to be a lot of moderate trees. I would generally bring to you all if I think it's going to be any sort of issue. If that works.
Sounds
I have
good to
a
me.
question. And now, will your list have automatic exclusions, say, for example, for invasive species? Because I mean, if there are things that are, for example, on our state invasive list that you're identifying as a high risk tree, frankly, I think that should come down, and we don't need to hear about that, no matter where it is or how it looks.
Okay. I think the
But
only
I wonder what everybody else would think about that.
So the only tree I believe currently listed as invasive, list C, is the Russian olive. I don't know if the Siberian elm ever made the list or not, but talked about it.
I would certainly vote to add that one to the list.
They didn't ask me, but I would probably agree.
Which tree was that?
Siberian elms, they're great trees until they're not.
Yeah. You know, we did have an invasive species tree over by the Soda Springs Park restrooms, and
And I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's like the heaven tree or the
yeah,
Tree
something
heaven.
like that. Yeah, what'd you say, Matthew?
Oh, it's a tree ahead, and they're like cotton balls that grow 40 feet tall. They fall apart if you look at them too hard.
Yeah,
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 that's exactly what that was.
yeah. And so what's her name? Our other arborist removed that tree.
Allie. Wasn't her name Allie?
Yeah, very good. Ellie McAllis Alexander. Yeah.
All right. Well, no, I appreciate the input here. Before our next meeting, I'll have some sort of placard made up for you all. May or may not have a full inventory to present to you, along with all the trees that are gonna be removed or may need to be removed. For this tree at Navajo, we will plan to remove it. I probably won't worry about posting because I spoke to the direct resident. And we don't have any formal posting process yet. So, those are just the three I have for you now. Slide, please. So, this is just something I wanted to make y'all aware of. We are now at 100% complete on the drawings for the library. With those 100% complete drawings, we have the final proposed extent of disturbance for construction. Earlier, when I went to council, whenever that was, last year, this spring, I told them that 5 trees were definitely going to need to come down. They were either in the building envelope, 2 inches from the foundation, or whatever else. They had little to no chance of surviving construction. And even if they did, they were going to become very unstable and very unsafe. Now that we have the final drawings, there is the potential that we might be losing some more trees. We're not really going to know until I have final marks on the ground. Once I know the final extent of disturbance, what sort of disturbance is going to occur and how far from the tree, I'm not going to be able to tell for sure. But we'll go in and we'll do an exploration with an air spade, which is just a supersized air gun, blow away the dirt and see what sort of structural roots we have, how many we have to remove for the construction activity, etc. In addition to that, we're going to have to analyze a critical root zone. That is the area under the tree or around the tree that cannot be disturbed per ANSI standards to ensure the highest likelihood of tree success post-construction. So just want to let y'all know we might be losing a couple more. We don't know yet. Just didn't want you to be blindsided if when that does occur. So unless you have any questions. Next slide.
Good
please.
information.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm trying. So, we talked, I rambled for many hours about tree risk assessment. So if you all would like to come along and visit us, me or Mandy or both of us doing a tree risk assessment, to really, see how the sausage is made, we would invite you to do that. It's a fairly complex process, but if you're interested, you don't have to, just want to throw it out there. We've got a lot of these coming up, including there's a big willow in Soda Springs by Monte Factor. It's the whole top of the tree is dead. It's crunchy, it's bad, and I'm worried about it failing and plugging up the river and flooding. That could be a problem. The willows at Fields by Skate Park. We're not looking at removal yet. I'm fairly certain of that. But we're looking at a hazard pruning. But we want to do a tree risk assessment on those trees just to start to track where those trees are in their development. And then, of course, we have a large number of silver maples all over town. Some will be hazard pruning, some will be removals. The tree risk assessment will help us inform how we're going to proceed with those individual trees. So you can reach out to me if you're interested in doing that, and if not, no worries.
I can
I'm
just say
definitely
that,
interested in that.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Matthew, I'm definitely interested in that. Should I just email you or?
Yeah, just email me and I'll let you know next time, or we can coordinate
Okay.
on a time. No shortage of opportunities to do that with us. It's a fun process. I really enjoy it.
Cool. Thanks.
I'd like to do it too, so I'll email you.
Okay. And then, yeah, hopefully that'll help you all explain, advocate to the community when I'm not there. Like, we're not just doing things. I promise. We have a process. in the majority of cases.
Mm.
I want to avoid I don't want to be the tree butcher of Manitou, I promise.
Right. Can I just say real quick that Creekside Willow by the Mate?
Yeah.
You're gonna get a lot of pushback from that one because someone already put up a sign that they're saying, "Oh, they're gonna take this tree," and there was a huge uproar about that tree already. So
Okay.
I'm
Yeah, that's
just giving you a heads up.
no, absolutely. And that's where if we're going to do something, I want to make sure everybody's aware, we're following the process. I just there's some trees that have been scaring me a long time. So I just want to enter this process and at least get the ball rolling towards whatever direction we take.
You know, circling back to the signage, the notification, I think something that might be helpful would make sure that you add that you're going to be planting a new tree when you
Yes.
remove a tree. I think that would help to go a long way to make people feel better about the process.
I think I will do that. And when I know I'm going to have to take a tree or we're going to lose trees for whatever reason it is, I try to plant some apology trees in advance and try to maintain that net zero canopy loss that I'm trying to do. There's lots of available planting locations and there's not as many young trees as we really need. So that'll be the big push for the next 3 to 5 years, I think. Anyway, so that's all I have for you. I apologize for taking an hour and 5 minutes. If you have any questions, concerns, you can always reach out to me. You know where to find me, 101 Banks Place. I appreciate your time, and next time I hope it will be so much more brief. Because I know you all are donating your time here.
Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew.
I'm going to rattle off. Y'all have a good evening.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, move on to other business. Art walk in the parks discussion. That was started by Tim. And Chris sent an art walk app that's already been started by Joan Stang, I believe. You
Well,
thought?
okay, so I have a update on that. There is an Artwalk app that isn't the one that was created by Joan, but it was created by Crane. And I think that perhaps Natalie is keeping up with it because I saw the new sculpture, the Columbine one at Fields Park is already on there. If you guys haven't checked out this app yet, it is pretty cool. It has I downloaded it to my phone. You can see each piece of artwork on a map and it tells you who the artist is and it tells you like the bio of the artist and sometimes it tells you something about the artwork itself. So anyway, that's
yeah.
cool.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I saw a QR code on one of those placards on one of the sculptures on the street. There was a QR code.
Right. So it's called AutoCast. And there's a lot of other communities on there as well. Joan Stang, who is a friend of mine and I'm on Pac-Man with her. She also created 3 walking tours using the Clio walking app that Colorado College uses. It's got historical mineral springs and pollinator gardens on it. So that's a separate walking app that I thought I would just let you all know about. So anyway, I think we're off the hook.
Tim, do you have anything to add?
Yes, that's all awesome, but that's not actually what I was talking about.
Oh,
I mean, having the infrastructure there already is great and it could piggyback from that. The point of doing this would be to feature things that are not already there. So this would not be part of the sculptures that are already, in town. This would either be a way to get people that are working in medium that is not, media that is not sculpture. So print, painting, photography, to get that out. There may, this is a attempt to be more active in our art in the park budget rather than having people come to us periodically and us often not spending that money. We could be using this money as to create prizes for works that people choose. This could be something that could be as large as a contest, including Colorado Springs. This could be as small as an attempt to feature artists that are already in our community, in local galleries, particularly the MAC. So I would encourage you to take a look at the art walk in Fraser and Winter Park and kind of start from there. These are actually things that are featured at specific times of the year that's separate from, say, more permanent installations or rotating installations that are already present. So I already am working on setting up a meeting with Natalie to talk with the MAC about their interest and what this could potentially look like. That's going to happen the week of the 16th, but I don't have a time and a date yet. Anyway, that's where I am on that.
Great.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, and then Tim, do you have any update on, you were gonna research? Well, I guess first
Nothing yet. I've tried two different people and I got shoulder shrugs on both. So I need to keep looking.
Well, can we open up the discussion to PARAB about how important do we feel like this is to our mission of our Parks Board?
Well, I'll speak up. As a parent, I hated that thing. Kids are always trying to climb on it. Grant got a big gash in his eye once from falling on it and cutting his eye on the metal, and I took him to urgent care. He didn't need stitches, but kids inevitably climb on it and play on it, which is mostly fine, but if they're unsupervised or young kids, they are going to get hurt. And what's the liability? Why do we have this big hunk of metal in the park that's not, we have to be so careful about the playground equipment, but I don't know why we don't have to be careful about that. So that's one perspective. Yeah, I don't like it. And it's a weapon of war, so I'm not really in favor of that either.
Tim, your main concern with you just thought it was kind of an inappropriate memorial. Is that correct?
Well, it's not so much that, but I mean, yes, particularly because there's no context associated with it. It's just a weapon that's sitting in the park. There's no plaque, there's no monument, there's no information. I have a feeling that was surplus probably from the Korean War, maybe World War II, that, got dropped off by somebody well-meaning, but any context that may have been there at some point has been lost. And I think this could be an opportunity to have maybe replace it with a memorial that would be more consistent with our values as a community. It could have a veteran theme, or it could have more of a community service member theme, like something honoring our police and teachers and firefighters. For example, it could be a Manitou service theme, or it could encompass many of these things. But at the very least, I would love to see some context rather than just have a weapon.
Yeah, I'm on board with that for sure. I think that the idea of creating an appropriate, if it's going to be some kind of veterans memorial, then it should name people and have some kind of a draw to it where folks maybe who have lost family members in combat or something would actually want to go there and feel that it is a real memorial.
Does our parks, like the master plan, I mean, have like sort of a list of goals or vision for the parks. And I mean, and I was just wondering, like, I know Tim's been looking for a home for it, someone who might want this object. I'm just like, I mean, we could just say, yeah, we're looking at a more suitable way to recognize the contributions of veterans, and this, isn't consistent with our values or whatever that we have for the parks, and then just kind of lay out a process, and again, posting it and try just, and then moving to storage at a suitable time after we give people a chance to weigh in on it.
Yeah, maybe Danu knows, is there, like, when Memorial Park was founded, or when it was named Memorial Park, was there documentation of what the memory was supposed to be about?
Well, there was a big article about Eber Duclos, and that's that soldier who's about atop of that rock up on the island. And I think that Memorial, back in the day when Eber lost his life fighting, I think it was World War One. That I think that's when they dedicated that park to be Memorial Park for Eber Duclos and all the rest of the soldiers, I guess. But I don't know the history, so that might be something that Mike Mayo at the Heritage Center or Deborah Harrison might have more information about that background.
Does the VFW in town have any information, or did you check that, Tim?
No, I didn't go to the American Legion. I tried first with Matt Kavanaugh, who wrote the article about the Eber Duclos statue. And yes, that the Memorial Park, I believe, did get its dedication from that. So it certainly predated. I mean, I'm no expert in artillery, but I'm pretty sure that the park predated whenever that was manufactured.
So what did Matt say, Tim? He was the one who kind of shrugged his shoulders.
Yeah, we just kind of texted. That wasn't really something that didn't come up in his research. That's what wasn't what he was looking at.
Okay.
I would follow up with Deborah Harrison or Mike Mayo, Tim.
Yeah, I think, those are great ideas.
And Mike, I think Deborah Harrison's involved with the Heritage Center again. Michelle Anthony also is still involved with the Heritage Center. Me might have a little more better idea, because I'm kind of thinking, since this is probably still military equipment, we'd almost have to probably get the military to remove it, is kind of what I'm thinking. It's still property of the U.S. Army or something. I don't know if those expire over time or what.
It needs to be decommissioned somehow and properly disposed of, so probably the military would need to do that.
I have two questions. One, do we need to do any type of public engagement on that? And two, I'm curious about Jillian's input about if you compare it to playground equipment or like any equipment in the park and like safety considerations and stuff like that.
Well, it's definitely not safe. That would not pass our certified playground inspector inspection. That's an interesting question, though. I mean, you could argue that point for most things in a park, like park benches or certain trees. Honestly, certain statues. There's a statue right now in 7 Minute that has like a sharp object pointed out that folks have like been stabbing oranges on. I guess for fun or to hold them or something. So that's a good point. The cannon could be, it sounds like it has been a safety issue in the past with kids playing on or near it. I don't know. I would need to find out kind of what regulations lie, or maybe proximity to a playground. Maybe there can't be those types of dangerous objects within a certain proximity to a playground structure. So I would need to do more research on that, but that's a really good point, Chris.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to start a process before we know more about its provenance. Now, if anybody wants to go peek inside, if there is any ordinance in there, then we have a different situation, but I don't think there is.
If there is ordinance in there, Tim, I'm going to tow it behind my car when I drive around town campaigning for city council, threaten to blast people's homes if they disagree with me.
I mean, and the city wouldn't have any records of when it was given
Yeah,
or
you'd think.
accepted, or I don't know.
Well, the names that I just threw out, Anthony, to Tim, yeah, Deborah Harrison has been around for a long time, and she's kind of one of our Manitou historians. And
Yeah, and I think I've got Mike's contact information already.
Yeah, Mike Mayo, he's running the Heritage Center. He's pretty resourceful too.
Okay, I can check with Deborah. I've just talked to her recently, so
Yeah, if you want to ask her, Anthony, that'd be great.
I'll let you know if I find anything out, Tim.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hey, Danu, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
there were two things I wanted to mention before when I couldn't use my phone for some reason. One was about what we were talking about, Fields Park and the benches. Did anything get decided on the benches?
Jillian, I met with Matthew and we discussed a few locations. He did say that my concerns about placing them under the tree were well-founded because they were too close to the I forgot what he called it, the root ring.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
had an idea, and oh, sorry, go ahead, Jillian.
Oh, it's called the critical root zone.
Thank you. Yeah. And so I suggested trying to utilize the concrete area that's already paved there. And then perhaps if you needed to pour like a 2-foot apron onto the turf area to kind of give us a little bit more of a platform for the bench, if that would work, if that would be acceptable.
Okay, well, I have another idea, and you guys can shoot it down if this is not something that can happen. But I was wondering about, what if the benches were inside the court, like not in the court, but inside the fence? Because I know that when I've played pickleball or whatever, I bring a backpack or a jacket or my stuff, and we always just throw it on the ground, like inside the fence. I don't know if drilling into the surface is like compromises the court surface. But do you know what I'm saying? Like just kind of along the fence, but just install it inside the fence.
I think the pickleball players, I think, would have an uproar just because of the dangerous potential for going after a pickleball.
Okay. I've played with I hear what you're saying, Jan, and I've thought of that too. I've played with groups where you rotate in on the pickleball quickly, and we all just end up sitting on the ground right there. So I don't know. So anyway, it's a thought.
You're softer than a bench. If someone runs. No,
Okay.
you're strong. I know you're strong, but
Chris, I think this might be a case of if we wanted to have some just thin benches on the inside where people can put their backpack or something on there or potentially sit. But I think that these would be different from the more comfortable and benches with backs on the outside. I like your suggestion for bringing some in because it's true. People just put their stuff on the ground. And I think a narrow bench without a back, just like a bleacher bench inside right against the fence, I think that would be okay. Jan, would you be as concerned about that? Obviously this wouldn't have a big seat that's sticking out or legs or.
yeah, I think also in the back might be better than on the side, although I think people rotate in more from the side because that's more convenient. And I thought one of the purposes for having the benches outside and the comfortable ones is that's for people that are waiting to be the next paddle up.
Correct.
So it
Yeah.
isn't just one person or so on a narrow bench inside. I don't know, I kind of hate to do anything to mar the surface.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
hear that. There's very limited room on the back end. There's almost not enough room sometimes if the ball is really near the back line. I've run into the fence before, so there's no room back there for a bench. I'll say that.
I would agree. That was just another thought.
Jillian, while we're talking about the pickleball tennis courts, I have had a couple people that have talked to me about maybe wanting to put a windscreen on the fences, which would serve two purposes. It would, of course, screen the wind, but it also cuts down on the noise emission, and pickleball gets a little noisy. So I think that if we considered some wind screens, at least on part of the sides of the courts, I guess that's something I'd like to propose to PARAB to maybe discuss next month.
Okay, I think that sounds like a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
And then my other thing, if we're done talking about benches. I was wondering about the chess tables, and I found a good spot. It's not a park, but it's right behind the chamber. If you guys have seen the new creek walk that they've poured behind there, they made this really, there's like a nice, I don't know, if not a chess table, the chamber needs to put in a picnic table or something, because it's like all crusher fines. It's right on the bike path, right by the creek. And you wouldn't have to do any improvements. It's like already ready to go. And it's right behind the Chamber of Commerce. So just another possibility.
On the Chambers side of the creek, or after you go across the bridge, Chris?
On the back side. So
I'll go look at that. I haven't seen it since it's.
or yeah, it's a bridge. It's on the east side of the bridge.
So closer to the Manitou Avenue?
So okay, it's directly behind the chamber, but on the right on the bike path there. The new concrete creek walk. Have you walked on that yet?
I haven't had a chance to yet.
It's real nice.
I just want to caution us, we need to start to call this a rec path, not a bike path. Because
I
of,
called it creek walk. Okay.
that's great, but yeah, because I've been chastised for calling it a bike path or.
It's okay. It's okay. Jan has had to correct me on that as well, and I no longer say BP.
Okay, rec path. It's beautiful. I want to say in my opinion, I think it looks really nice. I saw a lot of people using it this weekend, and it's real nice. I just wish that they had taken the concrete all the way to whatever that street is called right there behind the chamber.
Mayfair.
Yeah. I hope they finish that at some point. But again, it's not a park, so I don't know. We don't really have any purview over that, but it looks like a good spot for something.
And while we're talking about that, Colin, do you have any other thoughts or updates on your chess table location?
I'm still sticking with the ones I proposed last time, I think.
In Shriver.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if Jillian, if you went and looked at that little area that with the wall there that sticks out.
Yeah, I think that would be a good location. And I did get a couple of quotes that came back in for the chess table models that we looked at during the last PARAB meeting. So it looks like for 2 tables, and this is from Outdoor Creations Inc. For 2 tables with what we want, we're looking at $4,700. For 2 of the really heavy concrete chess tables that would have one side that's accessible for folks. So I'll share that with you when I'm sending over the information to the electricity at Memorial also.
Cool, thanks.
For that's almost $500, huh?
Almost
It's almost $5,000. Huh.
Shipping's actually a killer on that. It's $1,800 to ship.
Wow.
It's in
Did anybody reach out to D Wood or Concrete Couch?
No, I think what we decided with Concrete Couch, Tim, was we were concerned about the durability and the playable size of the chess game board itself, being able to be fabricated in a way that it would last and that it would be of proper size as per Colin's input of a specific size of squares, etc. But I was wondering, can we kind of shop around for some more chess tables that may be less expensive? That's a lot.
Yeah, we can definitely keep looking. Is there a budget you have in mind for this to give us a target?
I guess I don't, but I know just I think our regular picnic tables are like 1,000. So
Do you remember for the ones that were put in Soda Springs Park that were kind of wrecked? Do you remember if those were just basically the same picnic tables, but had the grid put on it? And they didn't last, I guess that's my point, but it was also, yeah.
They weren't of that recycled plastic that what we're using now for our picnic tables. They were more like just kind of metal chess tables. But if we could find something maybe more along that line that would kind of maybe.
We could also think about going down to 1 table instead of 2, I guess, Daniel, if you're concerned about. Because are we talking about maybe putting a second one then over like in 7 Minute or Mansions, right? I think we talked last week about maybe putting another one in Mansions. Is that what you were thinking, Jillian?
No, but Tim, the parks crew, go ahead, Jillian, you can.
Well, Mansions is so I asked our parks maintenance staff where they thought would be the best location, and they had chosen Mansions. But the best doesn't mean the only. So to them, that's the best, to be easy to maintain, peaceful park. But I think that the other suggestions were just as good. And I think we decided on 2 just to have a couple of them. I think they were going to be in the same area.
Oh,
I don't remember if we wanted to separate them into different parks.
Well, how about if we just keep researching and seeing what other chess tables that we can find made of the recycled plastic that's durable, and those will match a little better as to what our existing picnic tables look like. I don't know, Colin, you said you had found some tables too, yeah? Maybe you
well,
can
I
send
think
that
whatever
to
I
Jillian?
had found, I sent to Jillian a couple months ago. It was just a couple links that I had, but I think they were kind of the same sort of thing. You know, they're specifically made with the game table there, so it's not like a big picnic table that just has this in the middle. It's a specialized thing. So I think it was pretty similar to what Jillian showed us last month.
Mm. Well, I don't know. I'm just one of all you guys. So what do you feel like? What do you guys think?
Well, Jillian, are there less expensive options that are, that you've seen that you think would be considerable for this? That
I was looking for the sturdiest option. So I just immediately was looking at concrete, really heavy, durable tables. But we could also find durable tables that are recycled plastic or something that might be a less costly material or less expensive to ship. So I'm happy to do some research on that this month. Lower.
And maybe Danu, we can also, if you're uncomfortable with the cost, maybe we could consider the option of, is it better to get one really good quality table and see what the usage is like and how it goes, as opposed to getting two tables that might fall apart or that might not get used as often as we think they're going to get used, or that kind of thing.
Are there chess tables at Memorial Park in Colorado Springs? I think there are. I can't remember. And I don't know if they're bringing their chessboards to play or if they're actual chess tables, but I might go look over there too, just to see what they're using, if so.
That sounds like a good idea. And then, Jillian, would that come out of your budget though, since you're covering the picnic tables and the benches, or this would be specialized?
Well, I think this would be specialized. We would need to chat about where it would be coming from.
Right.
Because we wouldn't want people to use it as a picnic table. We'd want them to use it to
As
play,
a chess table.
play the games on.
Right.
There's a chessboard maker in Colorado Springs who apparently had a Netflix show. Cameron Crawford. Haven't heard of him. Petrie's Family Games. I don't know if they would. I mean, a local person who might know of options might be a nice place to start too.
Cameron Crawford.
This Petrie's.
And with a $2,000 shipping charge, we could buy another table.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just think it's something using local or somewhat natural materials would be kind of nice.
Oh, I remember reading about this guy. This was during COVID. His chess business went off the rails. He had to hire his dad or something to work for him.
Huh.
Yeah. So Anthony, did you see that he actually made furniture as well? Because what it was that it was that show, the Queen's Gambit on Netflix. And so the conjunction of COVID and the Queen's Gambit, chess equipment sales rose 1,000% in the US in that time. So it was pretty crazy. So Jillian, I mean, it might be worth to reach out to him and just, I think what I saw about him is he just made chess boards, but
Yeah, I'm happy to reach out and see if he's willing to branch out, or maybe he could partner with, I don't know, someone who makes picnic tables or something, and they could have a collaboration, but it'd be fun to ask. So happy to do that.
Okay. All right, well, I think we're up for further discussion at your November meeting, yeah? Kind of pick it up from there. Okay, is there anything else? Just a quick note, I won't be here for next November's meeting. So Tim's gonna be in charge. Tim, do you want me to go ahead and try to put an agenda together for you, or do you want to do it?
Danu, why don't we talk about that after the meeting? We can get together maybe this week.
Okay.
Will that work for you?
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Just shoot me a text, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Okay, anybody have anything else? Alrighty, then I'd like to adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jillian. Have a good night, y'all.
You too.
Bye.